Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Deal with D&J. I am your co-host, Jacob Pearl. Alongside me is the wonderful, the best. That's all I got. Those are the only two adjectives I had.
It's all right. I'll take it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. We'll add to it.
Could be
DJ
worse.
McCatherine's DJ McCatherine's joining back. We apologize for the hiatus. I went on vacation 4th of July. Had a great time in the Jersey Shore with my lovely girlfriend. Gorgeous house we stayed in, by the way. Uncle's phenomenal. Phenomenal house. I got to show you pictures offline. DJ was on vacation as well the week after. And then our schedules, the conflicts, life happens fast. But here we are back.
Back in action.
We're not going to do any recaps because what's really going on is just baseball. Nothing else going on. Me and DJ are knee deep in college football dynasties, grinding it out. I'm in 3 currently. I got my personal, 2 friends ones. I got UCF. Well, first I was App State. Now I'm UCF, head coach of UCF, Rutgers, and Nebraska. DJ, who are your teams?
So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm only in one dynasty at the moment. I went with Ohio State. I know.
You gotta do your favorite
I
team.
forgot how dynasty worked and the effort you actually need to do to be a head coach. and
Yeah.
it is a grind, and I'm not gonna lie. I just want to play football. I like the aspect of making your team better. But the dynasty mode, I'm getting used to it. So like it just started. I was doing ultimate, not ultimate team. It was
Road to
Road to
Glory.
Glory. I was doing Road to Glory. I went to App State.
Love it.
I did an App State gig. Um, and I just
That's
grinded
where
my way into wide receiver 3. It's been a slow process. I haven't had a ton of time on the game, but for a game, it's damn good. I mean, they took their
they
time with this. This is a long time coming, and I think they hit it out of the park.
They did great. I know a lot. I'm in some group chats. There's one guy I'm in. He just like hates the game. He's like, it's not real. It's too unrealistic. The defense is hard to play. Like, yes, it is. That's why you got to recruit and get better kids. So that way they fit your system. And like defense is supposed to be hard. Like defense isn't easy. It's a chess match. Now, granted, I'm bad at defense. I kind of figured that out. But I'm also good at getting to the quarterback sometimes. So like it kind of pans out. I mean, last night I was in an absolute sweat match against Minnesota. Number 5 Rutgers take down number 12 USC on the road at USC at night.
Look at
33.
Rutgers go.
I know.
Oh, Greg
Bye week.
Schiano's finally doing something over there.
Nah, this is Coach Colonel Sanders at Rutgers.
Roger that.
Colonel Sanders.
Oh, yes,
Uh,
sir.
uh my personal one is just my name, obviously. And then my Nebraska one is Bobby Boucher, is
Mm-hmm.
my coach's name.
As it should.
Little PG for the fans, which, you know, there's some non-PG names out there that people do, but it's okay. So like I said, sweat match, Minnesota. Minnesota goes up. Minnesota 6-3. I get them at home. Feels like a trap game. Go down 21-7 at halftime. It was getting real sweaty, DJ. It's getting real sweaty. Come back, end up winning the game 28-24. Survived Minnesota. Ended up somehow the number 2 team in the country now. Behind Hunters, your mom's favorite Little Leaguer, Hunter Malone's Colorado Buffaloes. Because he plays nobody. He plays cupcakes. I'm disrespecting his team right now. He knows it. He knows I want the smoke. But like we're saying, we're enjoying the game. I'm thoroughly enjoying the game. I think the game modes are fantastic. For me, varsity is like perfect level for me. Just
Ooh, you're playing a varsity dog?
like I said, I can't play defense.
Uh, you play on Heisman.
No,
That's how you get good,
no,
son.
no.
Oh, good,
Disagree.
good
Because if
God.
I play on Heisman, I'm going 0-12. There's not a chance anybody's coming to Rutgers. Next season, I think we're bumping it up to All American, but it's like my buddy Evan, he was playing number 7 Georgia. Georgia went up on him 42-7 at half. and that was on varsity.
Gotta be, better be good. Gotta be good on offense. If you're gonna be bad on defense, you gotta be good on offense.
So it's like I think varsity for me, like if I'm playing on my personal, is a good amount of fun, good amount of difficulty. I'm not trying to get worked and get aggravated at 10:30 at night on a Wednesday when I'm just trying to like have fun. Freshman's just way too easy though. Like I'm not trying to throw 100 points up every game. Like it kind of gets
Mm,
boring after a while. But
mm.
DJ, college football is less than 50 days away. Starts, I think,
Is it a
in
Wednesday?
legitimate like a
The
month.
Wednesday? Does it start with Wednesday Night Football?
No, no, no. It starts like week zero.
I'm
Week
thinking of
zero.
weeks. I'm thinking like weeks. Tomorrow is 49 days. This is I'm I'm losing my
We're
mind
like
over
we're
here.
close. We're almost less than 30 from week zero with Notre Dame and Ireland and the whole 9 yards. So we might as well just get started on some conference previews. None other to start with what is arguably the biggest conference by numbers.
Oh, there's no nothing arguable about it, is it or is it not, Jacob?
It is quite large. It's quite large. They have 18 teams now.
hmm
The Big Ten is who we're going to start with, ironically, with 18 teams. They have the four newcomers: USC, Washington, UCLA, Oregon.
hmm
Let's go ahead and let's just dive. We're going to do kind of a quick preview, kind of like how we like each team, nothing like super deep. And then we might do some like top five, like nothing crazy. This is not like if you're looking for an in depth preseason review of the Big Ten, that's not what this is going to be. I don't like watching Iowa punt the ball 40 times and give you an in-depth review on Iowa. All right? That's not how this podcast works. At least that's not how this guy works. That's not how I work. But let's kick things off with the reigning national title winner. My bad. Got to put that in there. Kind of
Oh,
owning the Big Ten in the last 3 years. Undefeated national title winners last year, the Michigan Wolverines. DJ, do you want to kind of kick us off with the Michigan Wolverines?
yeah, I can kick us off here. I think they are returning a couple good pieces. Got a couple of guys on defense. They're bringing back Donovan Edwards, which I think is huge. Especially for a football team who's lost so much to the draft and just the NFL in general last season. You know, despite this whole scandal, and they definitely cheated. I'm waiting for that hammer to be dropped still. But nonetheless, um, I don't think there was a team more suited to win, regardless of their of the scandal, than Michigan was, as they brought back, I believe it was 18 of their 22 players going into last year. But going into this year, they have lost those 18 players or 16 players, whatever it was, and they're kind of starting from scratch. They've done pretty good on the recruiting trail, um, but I haven't seen enough out of Michigan to put them back as a contender. Rondale Moore, oh my gosh, is the coach is slipping me. Um, oh my gosh. Please hold while DJ lags.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this all in while DJ lags in real time. While he looks up
Sharon
Coach
Moore. Sharon
Sharon, I
Moore.
was gonna
Oh,
say
good
Rondale's the wide
God.
receiver.
Uh, Rondale Moore was a wide receiver at Purdue,
Yeah, he was.
who mollywopped Ohio State a couple years ago.
Yeah, he did.
Um, Sharon Moore, he came in last year and he won some big games. The three biggest games of the season to cap off Jim Harbaugh's suspension. And I don't think that's something to be taken lightly from Michigan. And I know this is kind of running a little longer than we wanted to dive into teams, but Michigan is a huge question mark. They could easily be a team that I think could go 11-1 and 10-2. But they also hold a horribly difficult schedule coming into this year, as I believe they play USC, I believe they play Oregon, Texas for an out of conference schedule. Like their whole cupcake of a schedule last year has flipped on its back, and they have probably a top five hardest schedule this year. So I can see them going 8-4, 9-3, or I can see them going 10-2, 11-1. But I think they're going to be a solid team nonetheless.
Yeah, I think Michigan, I think they do what they do best. They rebuild or recoup. I think losing Jim Harbaugh is a bigger loss than I think they're going to realize. I think
Hmm.
the fan base is a little worried. It's weird to win a national title and you're a little worried about, can we repeat? Can we be
Hmm.
good? Like, are
Hmm.
we like, I don't think anyone's comfortable outside of like, okay, you have Donovan Edwards. That's pretty much it, right? I kind of want to jump into two teams here. I'm just going to kind of take little handfuls here.
There
I
you
thought
go.
Michigan being the national title, I think we deserve to talk about them, just kind of spotlight. But we can do little handfuls here. I'm going to take, um, I believe they were second and third this year in the Big Ten, and that is Ohio State and Penn State here. I think both coaches are officially on the hot seat. I
Ooh.
think James Franklin's seat is could be scorching. All right. Because in his entire career, except for the one win against Ohio State, he really, and wrote the at home Mo Bamba win against Michigan, right? He has not statistically and historically done well against these teams. And that's who you were supposed to be. Now you're adding in three really, really good Pac-12 teams and a UCLA team that kind of does this, a little roller coaster ride where they can be 9-3, 10-2, top 10 team in the country, or they're 7-7, not 7-7, 7-5, barely making a bowl game, right? So now you're adding those guys in. It's going to get harder. And now the question is Drew Aller legit? Because you have a really good defense, which Penn State always does. You have a really good running back, which Penn State always does. You have solid wide receivers. Now, can Drew Aller execute? If the issue isn't Drew Aller, the only other finger to point at is James Franklin is no longer the right guy to steady the helm. Because like, if you're okay with just being 9-3, maybe 8-4 for the rest of your career, that's the reality as a Penn State fan right now. Because you're facing Oregon and Washington twice a year, or USC, UCLA. Like, you're facing two of those teams every year. So now it's like, oh, all we got to do is beat Michigan or Ohio State, and we're like kind of locked in. It's like, no, you got to beat four really good teams year in, year out on a yearly basis. And like, the time is now if you're Penn State.
Yeah,
And
and then
like
unfortunately
I
the
said,
time really couldn't be worse for them.
exactly. It's
As
James. This
Oregon.
is like the thing I've been seeing is like if James Franklin gets Penn State to the CFP or even misses it, like if he gets them to the CFP, gets a home game, and then gets bounced in the first round, like he's gone. If he misses the college football playoff, he's gone. Like that's it's no longer as we need to be a top 4 team. Now it's you need to be a top 11 team
Mhm.
because you're gonna have the group of 5 winner. Like
Well,
I said, I think
this one right here is going to be the eight. This is the 18 playoff, right? Are we
yeah,
all did we go straight to 12?
all the way, baby. We're all the way there. We're all the way there.
Did I miss something?
Nope. You just it's
Went from 4 to 12?
yes. It's top 4 teams get a bye.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else plays the first round game at the highest seeds home stadium.
Mm.
Then the winners face the top 4 seeds in bowl games.
Mm.
And then you get to your top 4 tier championship. So
I
it's
knew there
4.
was a change, but I thought that they went to 8, and then
No.
did they pitch for 14? Is that what happened?
Nope.
They
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 all
made some change for the future that they agreed on one, and then they extended it.
it's 12 for the time being. But
Mm.
like I said, I think James Franklin's seat is uncomfortably hot this season.
I would have to just briefly agree. I think there's a lot of elements that go into being a great head coach, and he is a solid head coach nonetheless. But like you said, you gotta figure something out at some point. And he hasn't done that yet. I mean, you got to think. outside of that, I mean, the Ohio State win was luck. I mean, the team
It was
played
pure
good and
luck.
they've
They had the
played
field goal.
well against Ohio State, but to have a field goal blocked in return for a touchdown,
Yeah, no.
that is lucky.
So moving on, like I mentioned, I think Ryan Day at Ohio State, he's also uncomfortably hot.
Mm.
Not in the same sense of James Franklin, in the sense of like, I think Ohio State's going to be very good this year. I think Will Howard being the starting quarterback with, um, what's the wide receiver? I'm not going to even bother pronouncing it because I know
Amika
you know.
Egbuka.
Exactly. He has that phenomenal weapon on the outside. And he has two really great running backs. He has Travion Henderson and Judkins. Really good backs. And now he's at Kansas State. He had to do, a little bit more than he should. I think he's going to do really, really well at Ohio State. Now, the reason why Ryan Day is on the hot seat for me is because it's not going to be pressure from you know, internal staff. It's going to be the boosters when he does not beat Michigan for what could be the fourth or fifth year in a row. Fourth year in a row. I think this is what gets him gone. I think, you know, whether you agree with it or not, yes, was he depleted against Missouri and Missouri had a better group of starters? Yes. But unfortunately, you lost the bowl game. You didn't end your season on a great note. I got to get my Mizzou Tigers in there, right? Like you lose to Michigan again, you lose your chances of getting into the CFP and the Big Ten championship, and now it's like you're gonna make the bracket every year. Now it's like, okay, can we be a top four team instead of hosting every year? Like I think this is the conversation that might become of Ohio State. Now, granted, your competition gets tougher too, but I think Ryan Day is on the hot seat, not for the same reasons as James Franklin, but those are my two takes: is that both coaches are not feeling very safe in their job security.
Yeah, I'm gonna add into that. I do feel like Ryan Day's seat is warm, if not hot. The Michigan win has to come. The rivalry is too big. The fan base is too irritated. But more so than that, your team is too good this year. There is hardly a team where you can look at that has returned and you're like, oh crap, this team could really do it
This team
this
could do
year.
damage,
Like
man.
Ohio State has had, I mean, look at the Ohio State rosters you've seen. I mean, everyone's seen the picture of Stroud, Harrison, Wilson, Olave, Smith and Jigba on the sideline at, I believe, what was Penn State. But like nobody knew what those players on the bench were going to be, right? And you look at Ohio State, one on the offensive side this year, right? You've got a competent quarterback, right? One with experience, right? You're the fans and the crowd is wondering how he's going to fit into this scheme, but you've got the best duo in the backfield. You've got the best wide receiver core outside. Like I don't really think that anybody can really argue with those two statements. And then you
I think
look on the defensive side and you say that an already top three defense last year also returned 8 players and gained the number one player in the portal, or one of the number one players in the portal in Caleb Downs. You picked up a very solid center, which most people would not like to admit based on his Rose Bowl performance in Seth McLaughlin. And you pick up again oh my
Howard.
gosh, Will Howard. And you look at this team and you're like, it is built to win. Ohio State has spent the money in NIL deals to build a program that can win this year. And so I think that is what weighs heaviest on Ryan Day is because the pocketbook is open. They've gotten everything that they need to win this. I mean, the only question mark would be the offensive line, which you have also upgraded. So, and you went out and got Chip Kelly, who was a head
Yeah.
coach and
It's
is an
also
offensive
like
mastermind. But
listen, you can go 11-1, but if that one loss is to Michigan, it's not good enough.
mm-mm. I mean,
Not good enough.
the only way you counter a loss to Michigan this year is you turn around and win the title. I mean, I
That's
know
yeah.
losing to Michigan would be like the worst thing that could happen to Ohio State this season. But next to that, if he doesn't win the championship after that, he can be baptized. He can his sins can be forgiven for that. But your job is to do both, and so that is the biggest thing. And then I just want to jump into
Go
uh
ahead.
two teams
Run it.
real quick.
Run it.
Oregon is going to be dominant this year. Two of the best quarterbacks taken in the transfer portal. Oregon's gonna be a problem. You know, I can they're gonna be
Dylan
um
Gabriel is going to be high flying.
I mean, Oregon is plays in the elements too, man. You know, it's cold and it's dreary up there in Eugene. Do I think that it's going to be, you know, it's definitely not going to be as dramatic as you know that Midwest cold, you know, in the middle of November, but they're a team that I think could adapt to the elements easier than UCLA and USC can. Washington is the same way. They're coming over, but I think Washington is going to take multiple steps back. I think losing their head coach is was very sad for their program. Um, I feel really bad because I like the Huskies. I like watching them. They've always been a high flying offense. They've just lost too much this offseason. And um, you know, just as everybody does, just like we're doing to the national champions or the reigning national champions, they've lost so much. They've got to take step backs, and I think that's the expectation. But you also lose your head coach as well, and so the unfortunate demise. But I think that's where they go from there.
Yeah, I kind of want to jump into the final two former Pac-12 teams, USC and UCLA.
Hmm.
Right. Lincoln Riley's going to do Lincoln Riley things. I think Mason Miller, I think is going to be really good. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to play more of the Lincoln Riley style of football. Stay in the pocket, sling it deep, only roll out when you can. I think while Caleb was a generational talent at times, keyword at times, he messed up a lot of timing with receivers because he was too busy dancing, trying to survive. Like, I think Mason Miller's not that. So I think that's a big if, a big bonus. Now,
Staying in the pocket
defensively,
is going to be the big question for him, though,
yeah,
because that offensive line has been garbage.
yeah. I was gonna say it's both lines. Can both lines survive the physical Big Ten play? Can the defense handle the run game of a potential Minnesota, a run game of Iowa, right? A run game of Purdue? Like, can they handle that? Can they handle, and can the offensive line handle the defensive rush of a Penn State, a Michigan, and even in Iowa, especially Iowa, where they could sneak up and really get some wins?
Hmm.
So I think their table, I think for them, it's survive year one. I think it's you under like you're not getting the hardest slate, but it's not easy either. UCLA, I think it's a little bit in the same boat. I think for them, realistically, making a bowl game is a success.
Yep.
I think if they're 8-4, I think we're both looking at each other being like, oh, pretty good. So
Hmm.
I think that's kind of UCLA ceiling. I think they're still in a little bit of a rebuild in terms of college football terms. But like I said, I don't think UCLA, like, we're not going to sit here in November and see UCLA like as a top 15 team in the country. I just don't see it. With the way their conference is and the way their schedule is probably going to shake out, I really don't see that happening.
I mean, UCLA didn't do bad last year. They finished 8-5. You know, which, like, to your point, is not fantastic, but
Yeah, but like listen to their schedule.
that was also a brutal Pac-12 last year. Oh my
Also,
gosh.
but like here's their schedule. You ready for this?
Yep.
Hawaii,
Yep.
Indiana,
Yep.
at LSU,
Oh.
or home against
Ah,
home.
that could be an interesting game.
It would be home against Oregon,
Oh,
at Penn State, home
oh.
against Minnesota, at Rutgers, at Nebraska, home against Iowa, at Washington, home against USC, home against Fresno State.
Those
which
are
the
a bunch of coin flip games for me. I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. Like we could look at each other at
they could
they
go
could be
nine and 3.
7-5. They could
They
be
could go 9-3. Well,
they
you
could,
said losses to Oregon, LSU, and what was the other big time opponent? They play Ohio State, yeah.
I mean, no, they play I think their losses are LSU, Oregon, Penn State, USC. Like I can easily like I could see them losing to Iowa. I can see them losing to Washington. I can see them losing to Penn State. I can see them losing to Oregon. Like I can see them losing to USC. Like we just named off 5 teams that they can lose to. Plus, you got to think another Big Ten team's going to upset them along the way, like a Nebraska and the
I mean,
aspirations that are coming with Nebraska right now.
I'm just saying they can go 9-3. I think
They
they could.
could, they could, but they also can go 4-8.
Uh, that's fair. I'll give you that. So, but I think the rest of the Big Ten, I think they're just sitting kind of average. Like you said, Nebraska has big aspirations. Iowa has seemingly not made much progress in their struggles outside of firing some coaches. Purdue, Illinois. There are teams that can put up good fights on any given Saturday, but um, I mean they got to prove it before they really deserve any um, real in depth talking about because the average person's not going to know, and two, the average person doesn't really care until they're good, until they defeat somebody. So, got a lot of love for Rutgers, Nebraska, Iowa, Purdue, Illinois, Maryland. Maryland could be an intriguing team this year. Make a little noise, but again, I think the bring in of two powerhouses at the minimum um it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Take your next 2 teams.
Are we picking two more teams? They just
I
gotta
mean,
close it
listen,
out.
I'll jump right in. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Nebraska here.
Let's
Dylan
talk about
Raiola,
Nebraska.
Dylan Raiola. I think
Oh,
the first like 5-star to really go to Nebraska quarterback wise in a really long time. Matt Rule's second season, I believe.
yep.
So there should be a lot of progress. Matt Rule's really known for a rebuilder. Um, Offensively, I think they're going to be great with Dylan Raiola, but defensively, I am not ecstatic about where they are. I think defensively, they're a liability. I think it's going to give them troubles against some of these like high power teams, right? To kind of move in that sense. So I'm interested to see what is of Nebraska. Um, I think they make a bowl game at 7-5, maybe 6-6, but I think the ceiling there's nothing but the only limit for Nebraska is the sky. So who knows what's going to become of them. But I really like Dylan Raiola. I really like the offense. I'm not sure I'm in love with the defense.
I mean, again, there are a couple teams that I could take a hack at here, Jacob. Brett Belima and the Illini. Um, I've seen some progress in them in the past couple years, but it's like we're gonna take one step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and now we're right back in where we were. So they're a hard team for me to get around. Again, these mid-tier teams I haven't seen make a lot of progress. PJ Fleck had a couple of good years at Minnesota a few years ago. The COVID year, I believe it was, that he really he put some standout games together. Um, but the strides that these mid-tier Big Ten teams are making, or mid to bottom tier, really is in spurts. I'm really interested in Luke Fickle. Um, excuse me, not Luke Fickle. Luke Fickle at Wisconsin.
Yep, that's who
Oh
I
my
was. That was
gosh,
my
that
next team.
just
I think Wisconsin is going to be a sneaky good team this year
if any team was going to really sneak up on me this year, I would be worried about Wisconsin. Um,
because the schedule is fairly, forgiving after, you get two bye games. right? Then you got to go play Alabama at home.
Ooh, we got Alabama
Uh,
this year. Oh,
they do.
and oh no, that was a ball game.
Then they got to go to USC. But then you play a really nice soft three of Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern. I think Rutgers is the only scary team on the list, right? Out of those three teams. And then you got, your make or break for the rest of the year of Penn State, Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Minnesota, really, which will determine whether or not you're going to be a rather elite team or a rather mid team. So, like I said, we could see Wisconsin be 8-4. We can see them be, you know, just in the middle.
I'm,
It's
I'm, I'm,
tough.
I'm I'm not gonna lie to you. This schedule does not look good.
The schedule's
This
tough,
schedule,
dude.
this schedule does not.
But
I do
I
think.
believe in them because I think outside of like to me, like as I think the Penn State game being at home rather than at Penn State, I think matters. I think they take it to Penn State. They could win that game, right? Like Iowa, like as long as you like can really get some at least points on the board, like Iowa is a very beatable team, right? Like, and then you're looking
Alabama
at
is at Wisconsin.
correct.
Oh, of
And
course it's a
then like
September game. They wouldn't dare put out their beloved Alabama in Wisconsin in the wintertime.
yeah, but then you're also
Bastards.
looking at your final two games, DJ, as Nebraska and Minnesota.
Hmm.
And you got to think potentially, you know, you might sneak one past one of the big four, Penn State, USC, or Oregon.
Mm.
So like I said, it could be a very yield high reward season for them, or it can end up being kind of what they're used to, being 7-5, and then you go to the Boca Raton Bowl. Like,
I would
you know.
love it in Boca Raton.
But I believe in Luke Fickle. I think this team will be better than last year's team.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think I like Wisconsin probably better than most. And kind of with that same sentiment, I really like Rutgers better than most as well. I think Rutgers has a relatively really easy season. Not saying that because I am undefeated with them in my dynasty, but in the sense of like their own like I'm not trying to hate on any of these teams, but like on paper, your only real big opponent is USC. Like you have Howard, Akron at Virginia Tech. Again, I mean USC and Washington, my bad. You have Washington at Rutgers. Then you got to go to Nebraska. Wisconsin comes to play you. You get UCLA at home. You got to go to USC. You get Minnesota and Illinois, and then you got to go to Maryland and Michigan State. Like,
Michigan State.
like you're only playing two really good ranked teams from last season, which were Washington and USC. So and like I think their win total is set at like 6.5, and I like them beating that. I like them maybe at 7, maybe 8 wins. But listen, man, I think
Eight
Rutgers.
wins. Rutgers crazy.
Well, last year they had like a decent amount of wins. I think. Let me pull it up. Last year Rutgers was apparently I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They were exactly 6-6 with a win against Miami. So
But they've grinded their way. Greg Schiano was a coach over there before going to Ohio State, and he was a coordinator over there, and they went back to Rutgers, and you know, it's just good to see them improving. And so any little bit that they can get, and especially with a favorable schedule. And you said they avoid Ohio State and in
they
Michigan
have,
this year.
they avoid Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan.
Yeah, so that's a gift from God. And then Oregon, right?
You avoid Oregon
So
as
you
well.
you you you
And
take
I
away
think,
the top four,
yeah,
and now you're
like I said, it's there. It's there for
hmm
them for the take. I think they can get 7 wins. I think 7 wins is attainable. Um, like I said, a lot of things can happen. Injuries can happen. Things like that can happen, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, I just kind of want to talk briefly about Northwestern.
I'm
They're
looking at their
playing.
schedule right now.
Uh, they're they're playing by the water, and that is my Northwestern preview.
Yeah, they're it's gonna be cold up there, boys. Um, yeah, nope. I think Ohio State. It's not a trap game. Ohio State's going to win, but there is a high probability that it looks an awful lot like C.J. Stroud's sophomore year, where they're playing in 50 or 60 mile an hour winds, and it is 0 degrees outside with a -10 wind chill. Um, and this game ends up being like 17-3 or 17-0. Um, oh, that one's played at Wrigley Field. Okay, so it's still gonna be cold, but it's not gonna be as bad. That's gonna be cool. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I think Northwestern, they were 7-5 last year. I probably put them at the same line. Maybe
Mhm,
maybe 5-7 if some games don't break their way with the new additions of the Pac-12 schools. But
mhm.
like I said, I really don't know a lot about Northwestern. They had a much better season than I gave them credit for. Um, but like I said, I think they have a cool stadium.
The stadium that they're building is gonna be cool too. I can't believe that's the first time I've ever heard
The
about
North
them.
If you're a Northwestern fan, please reach out because I want to know how you became a Northwestern fan and why you're still a Northwestern fan.
I just want to know that your GPA, to be honest.
I mean, they're smart. I'm
Yeah.
shocked they watch the sport, but they're smart. But have we talked about Iowa yet? I feel like we've mentioned them a whole bunch.
We're kind of beating around that bush because we don't know what are we to expect? What is the expectation with Iowa? Because I
Do we
don't
expect
know.
do we expect the offense to be good?
Better. I think good
Maybe.
is a stretch. Who have they
Like
brought in?
are we gonna move the ball? Like if you play a ranked team, are you gonna score any points? Like you
Well,
played
you
Penn
gotta give them
State.
credit. They moved the ball. It's just their punter did it
No,
more
I'm
than
not
their
giving them
offense
credit. I'm
did.
not giving them credit for moving the ball. You got 31 you lost to Penn State 31 nothing. Like I think you didn't score any points against Michigan last year either. I think against those teams, they didn't score a single like here, I got it pulled up. Penn State 31 nothing. Michigan 26 nothing. And then they played Tennessee and they lost 35 nothing. Those were the three ranked teams they played last year. In those games, Cade it was Cade McNamara. Now he got either injured or benched. 42 yards and 56 against Tennessee, and then 120 against Michigan. Not bad. But yeah, I look at a game against Wisconsin and they won it 15-6, and the highest passing yardage was 37, and the highest receiving yards was 19.
Well, if they
Like,
threw it for 120 yards on a consistent basis, you could be like JJ McCarthy and go
granted, they had
for 10
170
over to
yards. They had
Minnesota.
170 yards on the ground, probably more than that. But what is it like? What is this Iowa team going to do? Like, that's
Uh,
like because they're going to play great defense. They have a great punter, but like, are they gonna put points on the board? Are they gonna make games enjoyable? Like, I think Iowa does what Iowa does best is they beat up on the rest of the Big Ten, except when they run into the buzzsaws and then they lose and don't score any points.
yeah, I mean they're bringing in Tim Lester. He was over there at Purdue. Um,
Wow, that's something to write home about.
I mean Purdue moved the ball on certain occasions. Let's take a look to see how long he's at Purdue. Who who could he have coached that would have been significant for him um to move from? He was a quarterbacks coach at Purdue. He was at Western Michigan from 17 to 22 as the head coach. He was a senior analyst for the Green Bay Packers in 2023, and he is starting his first season uh, as the offensive coordinator slash quarterbacks coach here at Iowa.
Like I said, I think with Indiana, I think with the new hire, of Chignati from JMU. It's going to be a long rebuild for them, but I don't see it as so much of a immediate impact success of what he had at JMU, right?
Do you mind recapping what you just said for the last 45 seconds?
Yeah, DJ, since you're coming back to us, I was kind of just trying to keep the show rolling here a little bit, but we ended the Iowa talk. I think we got three more teams to kind of quickly recap, and it's Purdue, um, Indiana, and I had it, Michigan State for the
Mm.
last three teams because we kind of breezed over Maryland, which is okay. Indiana has a brand new coach. It's a coach from JMU, um, Chignati, and I think that will yield success, just not in year one. I
It
think,
hardly ever does in the Big Ten.
yeah, but Indiana football is excited about him. He's moved the student section around. He's got more seats are now available. But I don't see Indiana having a winning record. I don't even see him getting 5 wins. So
Mm.
I think that's the reality for Indiana in year one under Chinati. But yeah, that's Indiana talking Indiana football. I think they just have such an uphill battle with the way the new Big Ten is set up that it's gonna how much you're gonna have so much patience with this guy that it's unreal. Purdue, again, I think they're kind of just in the middle. I think Purdue is what they do best. They play great football. They lose some bad games. They win some games they're probably not supposed to win. And maybe you play a trap game against Purdue on the road, and that's how they get another win. DJ,
Oh my goodness. How could we have forgotten possibly one of the best pickups this offseason in the Big Ten? I mean, right over my head, completely forgot about it. Jonathan Smith, Oregon State head coach, the one who's been bullying people over there in the Pac 12 for the last 2 years, coming to Michigan State and bringing his quarterback with him. How did we forget, Jacob? How did we?
he,
How did,
he didn't bring DJ Ugalaga with him.
no, he
The other
brought
guy,
Aiden Childs
the
because
backup.
Ugalungale, whatever, transferred this past year, right?
No,
This is going to be his first year at Oregon State.
this. Who are you talking about?
DJ.
No, this is his first year at FSU,
Ooh,
which we'll save for the ACC preview. DJ
right.
was his
What?
last.
God, this
DJ
transfer
was
portal's
his
got me
quarterback for the
twisted.
last 2 years at Oregon State.
I'm sorry.
DJ was his last quarterback for 2 years at Oregon State.
And then he jumped shipped when his head coach did. Interesting.
Well, he jumped
And the
ship.
Pac-12 went under.
Yeah. Michigan State getting I think that's a great hire. He's proven that he can win. I think again,
And
Michigan
they
State.
brought a great recruit with them,
Yeah.
a great quarterback.
I think Michigan State is again a long rebuild. I think the problem is we look at these teams and it's like how do like I think this is a good general question because I think the last we kind of touched on every team now is if you're the Minnesotas, the Michigan States, right? Maybe the Indianas when you become competitive, like the Iowas, perhaps. What does success look like? Is it making bowl games? Is it being 8-4? Is it maybe dancing with the CFP as like the number 3 or number 4 Big Ten team to make it in? Right?
Mm.
What does that success look like? Because on paper, you added 4 unbelievable powerhouses to your conference. So now, you went from, oh, all we have to do is really catch up to Michigan, Ohio State, because eventually we'll take care of business with Penn State, right?
Right.
But now you're adding in Oregon, USC, Washington, and UCLA. Now the ladder just got harder to climb to get to that, Big Ten championship or that Like you see what I'm saying? Like, how do you measure success? Like this new guy, Jonathan Smith, he's gonna come in. Oregon State was a Pac-12 contender because they beat Oregon and the whole thing. And I'm not saying like Oregon's unbeatable. Like Oregon's gonna have some surprising losses. So will USC. But on paper, as the schedule currently stands, how do you beat those teams? How do you view success? How do you climb that ladder? And I don't like you don't have to answer it. It's more kind of an open-ended in the years to come, we'll see. But to me, that's what I'm wondering with these teams going into this season.
I think an easy, especially for a new coach like Jonathan Smith, I think the easy one is capturing games you should have won last year, right? In making games that you did that like you could see losing to last year, making them closer, like 42 to nothing against Michigan State cannot happen this year. 24-21 against Indiana, they won, but that's got to turn into 31 to 17. Um, you know, 38 to 3 against Ohio State, putting a couple more scores up in a game like that.
Like Michigan
Losing 27 to 12 against Minnesota is not acceptable, and they're following in some good, like pretty big footsteps. Mel Tucker was the biggest flop of a head coach hiring and a monstrous contract that I have ever seen, and they're
that
lucky
was
that he did something stupid enough to be able to reclaim the money that they were supposed to give him because ridiculous.
it's just
Um,
like you look at this and they were 4-8 last year. And they lost game and it wasn't that they got lost. It's not like they lost, DJ. They got smoked. 31-9, right? 49 nothing, 42 nothing, 38-3, 27-12, right? Like they had a close game against Rutgers that you should have won, and then you lost by 10 to Iowa.
okay, here, before you move on, right? Think realistic. If they can realistically win, right, and you can really realistically think they can win, you say yes or win. Florida Atlantic,
Win.
Maryland,
Loss.
Prairie View, win.
Win.
Boston College.
Ooh. I'm gonna say loss. I think Bill O'Brien gets it done.
I don't even
How you
want to
look
play this game with you. Ohio State loss, Oregon loss.
Iowa loss, Michigan loss, Indiana win, Illinois win, Purdue win, Rutgers potentially. Illinois, I say Illinois is a win because I think Brett Bielema is going to be out of there. But like I said, I think you in between Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers, you're probably going to lose 2 out of 4. They don't have 7 wins, DJ.
Well, that was 7 wins.
Florida Atlantic, Prairie View, Indiana, Illinois, Purdue. That's
You said Rutgers. Sorry, I don't know where I got one more.
either to me. I got 5. I give them 5 wins.
You're wild, and with this new coaching system.
Yeah,
You
prove
don't
it to me.
think that he's going to turn
Prove it to me.
around and somebody with a quarterback, and Michigan State can recruit too.
I think I I just need to see it. I need to see it.
I think Florida Atlantic win, Maryland win, Prairie View win. Same. I think I stuck a finger up for Boston College before you you even said anything because I think you're crazy for that.
No, I think Bill
Ohio
O'Brien's
State
legit.
loss, Oregon loss. They're home against Iowa
Loss.
at their homecoming game
Loss.
for a Iowa team that was last in the FBS in offense. You
And
think
they
they're gonna?
were and they were 8-3, 8-4, whatever they
They're
were.
beating Iowa next year.
All right.
Indiana win. Illinois win. Purdue, win.
If
Rutgers is the only. I don't know.
if
I feel
Michigan
like they
if
need to
Michigan
lose
if
one more.
Michigan State goes 9-3, I'll buy a Michigan State shirt. I'll buy one and wear it on the podcast for the I don't know. I'll put a little something on it, but like I don't see them doing that at all. You get
See,
a
I
new
think they can. So I will. I'll be gracious and put their ceiling at 8-4. But realistically, I think they can realistically go 9-3.
if they go 8-4, I'll buy a Michigan State shirt
Eight
and
and
hang it
four.
up behind me.
No, I want you to get Michigan State face painted
I'm
from
not doing
somewhere in Massachusetts and then come on the podcast.
No, I'm not doing that.
Come on. Just
Maybe
green on one side, white on the other.
what if I find like a Trojan helmet and
Yeah,
wear
but
it on
that's
the
cool.
I know.
Stupid.
Whatever. Well, this kind of ran longer than we wanted it to, but the problem is there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. It's kind of how it's going to work.
The SEC is going to be a mouthful too.
Yes, and kind of the Big 12 because they have a lot of new teams as well.
And the
Listen,
ACC has some new teams in there as well.
we're like, oh, this is going to be a quick little preview, and then we're like slowly going through teams, and we're like, oh, this is going to be a while, but it's the way it's going to be.
It's the way life goes, and it was a great conversation. Like the Big Ten's interesting. You know, I really flopped on my information by forgetting that Jonathan Smith went to Michigan State. I think that's a great pickup. I'm not sure if he brought staff along with him, but I know he brought players, and I know it's hard to bring players, especially across the country, if you're not bringing something extra with you. So, um, maybe I do a little research and put some on TikTok because some of these teams are worth a little deeper dive into than what we're giving them. But it's gonna be a special year. It's next game 37 days, 19 hours, 55 minutes, and 25 seconds for Michigan State and in Florida, uh, Florida Atlantic. It is just a beautiful sight to see.
That's been the Big Ten preview. I think we're going to kind of cap it off there. Listen,
Mhm.
we're coming up on the season. Now, with week 0, I would just want to preface the way this because you're going to think, oh, Big Ten, SEC, and pretty soon it's week 0. When are the predictions coming? I want to know the spicy takes you and DJ have. Well, don't worry. All right, to the dealers out there, listen. Our predictions and everything else will come before week 1 of the college football season, not week 0, week 1. That's where we're going to give you our Heisman winner, our CFP bracket prediction, some hot takes, and maybe some cold ones. However, the cold ones end up being, we might see. It could be a cold take, could be a cold beer. We'll find out. Anyways, I have been your co-host, Jacob Prale. He has been DJ McCatherine, stunning as always. This has been the Deal with D&J. See you next time.